Good afternoon and welcome to the 330 Sports Show. My name is Justin Coffin. Today is Thursday, January 26, 2023. I am joined here by Joe Danier. We are downtown at Youngstown Studio. Today's show, I'm going to give you a brief overview of what we're going to talk about. So, number one, we got the championship weekend in the NFL. We got the Cleveland Cavaliers to talk about just a little bit. We're going to revisit our Joe draft, just talk about that just briefly. And I got a bunch of Thursday thought things on my mind that I'd like to get your opinion, get Joe's opinion, and we'll go from there. So I put on this airplanes, Winnie the Pooh.
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Go ahead.
Airplanes, Winnie the Pooh, etc. It's very random, but it'll
How does
all
that
make
connect?
it'll all make sense.
Okay.
Those don't connect,
All right.
at least I hope, but all the thoughts will make sense eventually. So let's get to the NFL playoffs. Let's start with that. That's kind of the big money ticket in sports right now. We are down to the final four in the NFL: Kansas City Chiefs, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the San Francisco 49ers. That is where we're at currently in the NFL. Now, we're going to start with the AFC Championship game. That is actually the second game on Sunday, and it features the number 3 seed Cincinnati Bengals traveling to the number 1 Kansas City Chiefs. Now, some very interesting stuff in this game. Last week, the Chiefs knocked off the Bills, the Chiefs knocked off the Jaguars. The Bengals knocked off the Bills. But Patrick Mahomes in the game against the Jaguars suffered a high ankle sprain. And the lines this week have been all over the place. So the betting lines as of 2 o'clock on MGM had the Chiefs actually favored by a point. 2 days ago, the Bengals were favored by 1.5 points, which tells me maybe someone knows something about Patrick Mahomes' ankle, maybe thinks it's not as bad as we think it is. Or maybe the betting public was like, there's no way, even though the Bengals have kind of had the Chiefs number, that we can leave the Chiefs an underdog in this game at home. So betting lines in this game: Chiefs are a 1-point favorite with -110. Bengals are getting a point, -110 as well. The point total 47.5 on the over/under. The money line: the Chiefs are you got to put down 115 to win $100. The Bengals are -110, so you got to put down 110 to win $100. So money line very, very even in this game. So people are kind of undecided, and that's kind of how I feel about this game. Joe and I will talk about what we think in this game here in a minute, but that is the basic strategy of that. Next question I have for you guys out there. Let's pretend Patrick Mahomes completely 100% healthy, no ankle sprain. Say it's the beginning of the year, or hypothetically you're starting your own franchise. All things being equal, you give him the same head coach, you give him the same roster. Who would you take? Would you take Joe Burrow, or would you take Patrick Mahomes? I think last year at this time, this was an easy answer, and it was Patrick Mahomes all day. I think Joe Burrow has really opened the door for this discussion. So, Joe Danier, let me ask you, who would you take if you were starting an NFL franchise from scratch right, next season, hypothetically? So all things being equal, head coach, same roster, whatever it might be, are you taking Patrick Mahomes or are you taking Joe Burrow?
Burrow for the long term.
Okay.
I think talent,
Yeah.
Mahomes is off the charts.
I agree. And why do you say that with Joe Burrow?
That he's going to be in the league a really long time.
Okay.
The dude is special.
Yeah.
And I think his potential isn't even reached its peak yet.
Okay. And I feel like I have a hard time betting against Patrick Mahomes, which I'm actually doing this weekend, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But there's just something undeniable with Joe Burrow, like some quality underneath the surface. He's got a little bit of swagger and cockiness to him. So does Mahomes, really. And that's what kind of makes these guys great. But I don't think you can go wrong with either one. If I had to pick, I'm still going to go Mahomes if, 100% healthy, all things being equal. But I don't really think you can go wrong with either one of these guys. So
now that high ankle sprain, is there enough time for him to recover for that game?
Well, I mean, based on the way the lines have gone, I think it's really interesting because the Bengals were a 2.5-point favorite, or as high as a 2.5-point favorite, and the line has shifted, 3 points or so. Now it's the Chiefs are back to 1. So that tells me maybe it's not as bad as we thought. I feel like there was maybe a little overreaction to that. But I mean, I would assume he's a gamer, as they would say. But I would assume he'd be ready to go. Maybe not 100%, but he's one of those guys that does rely on those feet to get out of the pocket and make those, flip it underneath passes or whatever, based on moving in the pocket. So
I honestly think that if he played that game on a hurt ankle, he made it so he's not going to be 100% this week.
No doubt.
If he would have spent more time on the sideline and only come out in situations, he might be okay, but I think he's still going to play hurt.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So, Joe, I want to bring this back to you. We already did our Joe draft based on me and you just going through some stuff. And ironically, Joe Burrow and Joe Pesci were in the finals of our draft. So Joe Burrow won the left side of the draft. Joe Danier is even in this draft here, but Joe Pesci ended up beating Joe Burrow in the finals. If you had to rank all of these Joes, who would your number 1 seed be out of all those? So Biden, Rogan, Namath, Joey Chestnut, yourself. We'll exclude yourself.
Okay.
You can't vote for yourself. Yeah. We don't want to put you in that. Joe Camel, maybe back in the 60s, who knows? DiMaggio, Burrow, Pesci, Montana, Joe Lewis, Joe Thomas, Joe Dirt, Joe Cocker, Joey Tribbiani, and Joey Gladstone. Which one would you put as your number 1 seed?
Life's a garden. Got it. Joe Dirt.
All right. It's Dirte, but I believe.
Dirte, sorry.
I don't want to French it up too much, but okay. All right. Very good. I thought we'd just revisit that and have a little fun with it. But Joe is going with Joe Dirt. I think almost right now, based on the way things are going, I got to put Joe Burrow number 1 on that list, just based on, like, he's literally earned the nickname Joe Cool. So, and if you've seen, there was like some social media highlight of him going around last week that kind of went viral on Twitter. He's just like throwing a warm-up pass in Buffalo in the snow, and he throws it. And when he throws it, he does this like 360 spin, but they had it in slow motion. It just looks like at one point in my life, I wish to be that cool for like 5 seconds. You know what I mean? So
I screw it up.
Just kind of, cool. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, especially through the snow and through the wind, like fall on your face or something. But no,
mediocre is good for me.
Yeah, and that's fine. You're great at things Joe Burrow can't do. So,
right.
So,
and I'm going up against a cigarette company, so I think I'm good at that first round.
Yeah, I don't know that was a weird bracket, but we had some fun with that. So why not? All right, let's go to the NFC Championship game. You have the number 2 seed 49ers. And of course, we know the York family hails from right here. The Bartlow family hails from right here in Youngstown. So you got some local ties here with the 49ers. And then you have the number 1 seeded Philadelphia Eagles. So this game will be the first game on Sunday. These are the betting lines as of, again, 2:00 today. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites. 49ers obviously getting 2.5 points. The point total over under is 46.5. 49ers are plus 125 on the money line, and Eagles are minus 150 on the money line. So Joe, real quick thoughts on who you like in this game, or the NFC Championship.
I'm going to ruin this in conspiracy theory.
Okay.
So Purdy is a cool story, and I think the refs are going to make them win the chance. I think the Eagles should win it because they're the more talented team, I believe. But I think the Purdy story makes the headlines.
It's a pretty good story.
It's a pretty good story.
Okay. All right. I I have to go with my head over my heart in this game. Everybody knows Joe and I are Browns fans. We talk about the Browns a ton on this show. But if I have a second favorite team in the NFL, it's the 49ers,
100%.
just based on the local ties and whatnot. But I want the 49ers to win this game, but I think the Eagles roster is just so good. I think I saw a stat today. Like the Browns had 34 sacks, which was like, maybe around 24th, 25th in the league, not super high. The Eagles had 70 sacks this year, so double what the Browns had. The 49ers defense is very formidable. Both teams' offenses have a lot of skill weapons, but I think the defenses are sort of the main driver in this game. But I like the Eagles to win, even though I would like the 49ers to win, if that makes sense. So
I'm going to put $100 on controversial ref calls in that game.
Okay. Joe is already putting out a conspiracy theory. So for the 49ers.
For the 49ers.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They're going to win by refereeing.
Okay. All right. So once again, here's a look at those two totals. The Chiefs are 1-point favorites, 47.5. Eagles 2.5-point favorites, 46.5 in that game. So here are the 4 possible Super Bowl matchups. So Joe, you are saying the 49ers are getting there. So who do you have them facing, the Chiefs or the Bengals?
The Chiefs.
You got the Chiefs.
Yep.
Okay. So Joe is going to go with the Chiefs 49ers, that's kind of a cool Super Bowl just from a historic perspective, whatever. So I put down here, just to be fully transparent, what I'm going with this weekend. And these are actual bets I placed as of I believe it was yesterday. I did this soon after. I think it was Monday or Tuesday. I put these bets in, but I have the Eagles to beat the Bengals in the Super Bowl. So that pays plus 475 on not a prop bet, but a parlay there. I have the Eagles and the under this weekend against the 49ers, and I juiced it down a little bit to 43.5. So that pays plus 260 on the money line. And then also I have the Eagles minus 2.5, and I kind of got stuck a little bit with the Bengals at minus 1.5 because that line has obviously changed. But if you like the Eagles and the Bengals to win, then they're fairly low point totals. I would probably just go on the money line with the teams you want to win. But if you think it's going to be a straight up win for both of those teams, might as well just go, taking the points and, giving the points and going with that. So I have the Cincinnati Eagles. So Joe and I have completely opposite Super Bowls.
That's the first time, tale of 2 games.
Yeah. So one of us, well, we could be 50% right, I guess. So we'll see what happens. So Joe's got the Chiefs and 49ers. I have the Bengals and the Eagles. So we shall see. And again, I feel like I'm almost opposite. I think my head wants your pick, but my heart wants your pick, the Chiefs and the 49ers, but I think my head is telling me the opposite. And one of us is going to be wrong, and
100%.
That's what makes this fun. So we'll see who gets to match up in on Sunday, February 12th, 2023 from Super Bowl. What is that? 57 from Arizona. So that should be fun. We shall see. So real quick before we transition here, just want to remind you to check out the 330 Sports Show on social media. Also, make sure to follow Youngstown Studio on all of our social media platforms, including if you're watching right now on YouTube, Facebook, whatever it might be, even Twitter out there. So appreciate you guys for watching and listening.
I can't believe that was in a congressional hearing.
I know, isn't that
awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like, look at her writing too. It's very, very impressive. That's Miss Porter. Great job. Real quick check-in. This is going to be about a 1-minute segment with the Cleveland Cavaliers here. 29-20 on the season. Their home record is 20-5. Road record is 9-15. They're really struggling on the road right now. Had a really tough loss against the New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden the other night. Probably should have pulled that one out, but did not. They are still 18-9 against the Eastern Conference, 11-11 versus the Western Conference, and 6-0 in overtime games this year. The only unfortunate thing that I've seen recently, the Cavs are actually 21-19, so they're about a 500 team since they started the season 8-1. So hopefully they can pick that up and get it going. So here are the NBA standings in the Eastern Conference currently. The Celtics have a 3-game lead over the 76ers, 3.5-game lead over the Bucks, a 5-game lead over the Nets, and the Cavs are 6 games back in the East of first place, sitting at 29-21. So the Cavs are only 4-6 over the last 10 games. So hopefully they pick that up a bit. So the week ahead for the Cavs, tonight they're going to take on the Houston Rockets on the road, and then they play a back-to-back Friday tomorrow night at Oklahoma City. So hopefully they can pick up a couple road wins here and get that road funk off their back here. Sunday they will take on the Clippers at home, and then next week on Tuesday they will take on the Miami Heat back in Cleveland. So let's talk a little bit about YSU men's and women's basketball. We don't talk a whole lot on the show about YSU basketball, but they are both squads are playing some really, really great basketball right now. Coach Barnes and his Lady Penguins, Coach Calhoun and his men's squad. I wanted to put this out there because YSU is actually going to be playing on national TV tomorrow night at 9 p.m. I know Penguin City has kind of something set up right down the road here from Youngstown Studio. We're actually almost smack dab in between Penguin City and the Beagley Center down here at YSU, downtown Youngstown. So it is a readout game. So if you haven't got to a YSU game this year, this gives you a cool thing to do. You can go have fun on a Friday night, hit up some of the restaurants downtown, and then get to a Penguins game. They're playing conference foe Oakland, and should be a good one. So I think the Penguins in Oakland played a pretty nice game about a week or so ago, and the Penguins are one of the highest scoring teams in all of college basketball, which is pretty great. So Coach Calhoun has them playing at a very, very high level. So let's take a look real quick at the standings. So YSU currently is third in their conference with and overall has the most wins in the entire conference at 15-6 overall. They are 7-3 in conference, 1 game back of Milwaukee and Northern Kentucky. And you can see the team Oakland, they're playing 9-12 overall record, but they're 7-3 in conference, playing some good basketball there. On the ladies' side, they are playing just as well as the men's team, and both of these teams can really shoot the ball and get to the basket as well. So the Lady Penguins 14-5 overall, 8-2 in conference, 8-2 at home, and 6-3 on the road. We've featured Malia Magestro on the show before. Hope to get some of the other Penguins on both the men's and the women's side in here before tournament time gets going. But give both of these teams a shot. If you have not got down to see these teams, both the men's and the women's teams play a really fun brand of basketball. They get up, they move, they shoot the three. The men's team is throwing down some serious dunks. So it's a fun brand of basketball. Take your kids, take the family, just go out with some friends and have some fun and get down there and have some fun with it. So good luck to both the YSU ladies and men's team this weekend. And again, you can check out the men's team on ESPN2 tomorrow night from right here in Youngstown. All right. We're going to switch gears one more time, and we're going to get to like some Remember When and some Thursday Thought segments. So if anyone knows Ken Carmen of 92.3 The Fan up in Cleveland, him and I yesterday, we got into some like fun exchanges, and then like a bunch of other fans got involved on Twitter. But on this date, I believe it was like 10, 11 years ago, the Browns hired a man named George Kokinis as general manager, hired him, brought him in. He was handpicked by Eric Mangini, who was the coach at the time. And I just want to say, like, Joe, do you know anything about this story?
I don't.
Okay.
No, but if it's connected to the genius Mangini, it's got to be good.
So, okay. Let me just set up the story. I'm not going to go through this article. This is basically just his backstory and history. So, but that's not what this is about. George Kokinis, and I can't personally get into the details because I don't know them. However, there are rumors galore about the end of his time in Cleveland that involve hookers, cocaine, him being escorted out of the building. No one really, I mean, I'm sure people know, but there's a lot of rumors out there flying around. I don't know, but it's very entertaining. And I know people out there know this story, but there's always these little subtle drops of, do you remember this? Do you remember that? So if anyone has any good details, feel free to share them. But this was one of the more wild stories in Cleveland. So thought I would share that as we.
Well, those things aren't good for your resume.
You generally not. Generally not. Apparently they're.
Unless you're Charlie Sheen.
Well, yeah, and even then, that might give it a little hiccup in the middle of your career. So, yeah, usually those things are frowned upon, especially if they're happening in-house in office. So, so I don't know. Let's get back to the current Cleveland Browns regime. This is just a real quick resume from the new defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. Now, I had mentioned the only thing I really remembered about Jim Schwartz is I know he started his career in Cleveland under the Bill Belichick tree. And then I remember the whole incident with him and Jim Harbaugh, where there was an aggressive handshake and like chasing him down and whatnot. Yeah. But that is very, very interesting. But it's nice to have a Schwartz in the Cleveland Browns building that might be capable of doing his job. So we'll see. We'll see, because we all know Anthony Schwartz is not quite there yet. So
hasn't dropped any passes yet. So.
He has not dropped any. Yeah. And Anthony Schwartz, since the season has ended, I don't believe has dropped a pass. So I'll have to double check on that. But this,
maybe they should keep him on the roster. I mean, he's consistent now.
We'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of time will tell. Time will tell. So let's real quick, just to get into this Jim Schwartz. Again, he was brought in under the Bill Belichick tree as a personnel scout from 93 to 95. Did a really good job. Worked his way up. 96 to 98 goes to Jacksonville, becomes the linebackers coach there. Moves on to Tennessee, and eventually becomes a linebackers coach, defensive assistant, and then the Titans defensive coordinator for 8 full seasons. Did a great job with them. He gets a head coaching job with the Detroit Lions from, he was there for several years, and then was the Bills defensive coordinator after that. And it's really hard to be successful in Detroit, and that's a Cleveland Browns fan saying that. So, getting fired in Detroit is not a resume killer, let's just say. Goes on to be the Bills defensive coordinator, takes a year off, then goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, wins a title, a championship with them, with the Philadelphia Eagles. So pretty cool there. And then the last 2 seasons was a defensive assistant with Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans. So this guy builds his defense through the defensive line, which for the Browns, that will be a breath of fresh air. You have an absolute star in Myles Garrett. So he plays what's called a wide 9 scheme. So his defensive linemen play very far out on the edge, and that's not just like a one-off. They will do that from time to time. They'll show different looks, but I think this is a really nice hire for the Browns. And by all reports, he holds his players accountable, and I think that is it's nice to have someone that will be a coach that will be able to stay on these guys, and I think that was lacking last year.
And the one thing I read was that I don't know why people are critical to the Belichick connection. I mean, I think Belichick has the best football culture of any coach that there ever was.
Exactly.
And so, but I don't know why the fan base is so critical of that.
Think about who was on that staff. Like Nick Saban, maybe the best college football coach of all time. Bill Belichick, maybe the best head coach of all time. Kirk Ferentz is the head coach of Iowa for like the last 30 years. You got Jim Schwartz. You got a bunch of other guys on there. That's a really loaded roster. And guys have to make mistakes too. You know, you got to learn. Bill Belichick, was he perfect in Cleveland? No, but he learned from it. He got better and found the perfect situation. So, so yeah, I don't know. I think that's a good hire, and we'll revisit that. And I'm sure we'll have compliments and complaints throughout next season, but hopefully more compliments than complaints.
I really think that we're going to see a lot of these players that should have like peaked this last year.
Yeah.
That ended up either being hurt or just like, like, so let's just say you have Clowney under this regime. I think he does far better under Schwartz than he did under Woods.
I agree. I agree. And I think if you're building through the defensive line too, that's going to, you know, force teams to throw the ball more because they're not going to be able to run it as much. And the Browns, if you can say there is a huge strength outside of Myles Garrett on that defense, your cornerbacks are great with Ward, Newsome, and Emerson. So,
and when your linebackers are healthy and they're in the game,
yeah, right. Yeah, when you don't lose five season-ending injuries to linebackers, that also usually helps your roster as well. So, so I want to revisit yesterday real quick. That ends our Brown segment, and then we're gonna get weird after this one.
No.
So,
wait, I still have to ask, like your transition between the cocaine cowboy in the one story and then just a straight up Schwartz story. I was thinking that you were going to say something about exciting in that, but it was totally legit.
Yeah, well, I thought we'd get a little crazy and then bring it back to normal.
Right, cool.
So, you know,
I was ratcheting up. And it was a little deflated.
Yeah. That's what this is going to be. This is going to be a slow burn now, and then it's going to get weird.
Okay.
So there's some good Thursday thoughts that I want to pick your brain on too.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Please.
Your slow burn. What was that show you told me to watch? Severance. So good.
Freaking
I'm
awesome,
hooked, man.
Severance is awesome. One other show I'm currently watching just started. I'm not a video game person, but this show is adapted from a video game. It's called The Last of Us. It's on HBO. Excellent. So it's only been 2 episodes so far. Excellent stuff. So highly recommend. It's like an apocalyptic type, and it's like zombies a little bit, but it's not. I was never like a Walking Dead fan or any of that, but this is good. It's
you ever
real
watch
good.
Station 11?
I have that on my list.
Okay.
I have that on my list.
It is freaking weird.
Okay.
Like, it is if you want to like it jumps around a whole lot and there's a whole bunch of like storylines that just don't quite make sense. But I think the writing is particularly good. It's hard to follow. So it's one of those things you got to be tuned in.
Okay. All right. Station 11, add that to your list. And if you have not watched The Last of Us, get on that. And I was late to the party on, what were we talking about? Severance?
Yeah.
Oh, so good. So good.
Do you have theories, by the way? Because my family's concocting
on Severance.
Yeah.
I'm not quite there yet, but can I give you a little homework assignment over the weekend you can look into? There's something called the Lexington Letter, and Apple TV created this like little mini document that goes along with the show that was somehow like, you know, in the whatever world that is, leaked out to a news reporter, and they printed it. So the Lexington Letter, Google it or something. It goes along. It's like a complimentary piece to the show that gives you a little bit more backstory and insight that can maybe create some new theories for you. So
interesting.
But kind of fun. Yeah. Why not? Why not? Oh, it's always good. It's like, you know, I don't read a whole lot, but it's it adds a nice little piece and a nice little mystery to it. And it's some light reading, or you can just go to YouTube and it'll read it for you.
Well, I like that entertainment now has some depth to it, where you got to figure some stuff out rather than being that mind numbing stuff.
Yes.
I think the one that we just watched with the Glass Onion was one of those.
Oh, okay. I have not seen it yet, but I know it's a murder mystery. Yep. White Lotus was kind of like that recently on HBO. So there's some really good stuff out there. And this is kind of that time, like when football's ending, there's the weather's kind of crappy a little bit. It gives you a little bit of time too. If you just, we were talking about doing like a reset a little bit. Like if you just want to like, give yourself a moment or two, just like gives yourself 45 minutes to an hour of just like, you could chill out, watch something and be entertained too. So
totally disconnect from real world. I love it.
Yeah. Amen. So let me get to this because I actually listened to a podcast on this. I have not read the book Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, but I thought this was really cool. But Phil Knight created a company called Blue Ribbon Sports on January 25th, 1964. So that was what was that, like almost 60 years ago, 59 years ago yesterday. So Blue Ribbon Sports later became Nike. And so
interesting.
Phil Knight was a runner at the University of Oregon, couldn't find the right shoes, was an okay runner, not a great runner. And him and his track coach ended up, going in on these shoes from this Japanese company that they really liked, and ended up like just turning Nike into this huge conglomerate that it is now. So, that's a very, very simple, short version of the story, but it's a very, very cool story how it all came. And I believe Magic Johnson, Magic Johnson, no one's feeling bad for him. He's doing very well for himself, but I believe he turned down and signed with Adidas at the time because that was the more well-known company, instead of taking stock options out of Nike as a rookie. And stock options in whatever 1979, 1980 on Nike and what they would be now would probably be in the billions.
Oh, for sure.
So just some crazy stuff there. But Blue Ribbon Sports
became Nike.
So thought that was kind of interesting. All right, Joe. Here's a pet peeve.
Yes.
And we all know I don't just have pet peeves. I have sometimes major psychological hatreds of
rage.
things.
I'm gonna call it rage.
Yeah, rage. So and I'm not gonna do anything crazy. I'm not gonna yell and scream or do any of that stuff. But this just made me laugh, and because it is so true. Man shaves 1.7 seconds off 2-hour flight by standing up as soon as the plane lands.
Yep.
Which we all have been there. We've all been on that plane. Maybe some of you are guilty of that. And that's okay.
Yep.
And we'll get there. Because I want some back and forth on this. I am I don't know. I'm not super tall, but I'm not short either. I'm about 6'2". So I do need to stand sometimes to get a little bit of circulation in my legs, get moving a little bit. But I'm not talking about people that are standing up to stretch. I'm talking about people that are in the aisle, grabbing their bags, not waiting their turn. The people that will cut you from behind the plane. So that is not just a pet peeve of mine. That is I get pissed. Thoughts.
So you would make an exception for me because I'm just stretching my legs. I've been sitting for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm standing up. I don't have my stuff gathered up.
Sure.
I'm just like stretching.
Yeah.
Right. But I do look for the annoyed Justin behind me and I blow kisses at them just to be, because I know they're pissed. They're like, where's he think he's going?
Yeah. No, well, see, the thing is, okay. And because this has happened several times to me on an airplane where, usually the seats are pretty close to each other, but they're like staggered a little bit from one row to the next. If you look across, they're pretty even, but one row's like maybe a tiny bit behind, and that's fine. Like usually you like figure it out, just like give like a head nod or something, like you guys go or whatever, and that's fine. I'm not talking about the people that are across the aisle from you. I'm talking about the people that are behind you. Wait your turn. Now, someone pushed back on me and said, well, what if you have a flight connection? That's not on me. That's not on me. If you have a flight connection and you're polite about it and you're like, hey, I gotta make this. I have 15 minutes to make my next flight. Do you mind? That's totally fine. If you're polite about it, it's the people that are that are doing it on purpose, that try to get up in your business, or the people that have just like no common courtesy to the rest of the airplane. So
all right, give me some etiquette here because we got to teach
Yes.
people how to do this.
Okay.
Right. So the overhead bins
Yes.
are like a contentious thing.
Yes.
So let's just say that above your seat, somebody already took all the spaces, and now you've got to put your stuff 5 rows back.
Yes.
It's time to leave, and you should be going that way, but you got to go that way to grab your bags.
Sure.
What's the etiquette?
I think the etiquette is, especially if people are just decent people, you say, sir, ma'am, do you mind if I go back and get my luggage? Or can you say, do you guys mind passing me that luggage back? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But you're going to get those people that their time is way more important than yours, and they're just going to look at you and not say anything. And that's where I have a little bit of a problem.
All right, let's talk about the trauma. What's the origin of your anger on this issue? What did it do to you?
It's not necessarily anger. It's more of just frustration. I am someone that believes that you should treat others with respect and kindness. And it's kind of like the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated. And that's not always the case, especially in air travel.
Everybody's frustrated.
Well,
everybody's in a hurry.
Yeah. Well, and everyone is looking out for number one. And I get that. I totally get that. There's a part of that is very understandable. I also get people that get annoyed with children crying on the plane. That's fine. There's also these things called noise canceling headphones that you can buy for like as cheap as like $40 now. And, that's another thing. So that's a whole nother topic.
So when you're in traffic, I want to ask another one because this is one of my anger moments. So you got 2 lanes that are merging down to 1. Is it a zipper where you go every other? Is it a F you, don't get in that left lane and think you're going to cut in front of me?
Okay. So let me set the stage here, especially on a turnpike or a major roadway. And it says 2 miles back, lane ends in 2 miles. But those people wait till the last second instead of getting over. That's what drives me nuts. Now, people that might live around here, a good example of this would be if you're crossing 224 in the Boardman Canfield area by the new Meyer, and you're crossing over and you're going through on Tippecanoe. There is a left turn lane and there's a straight lane and there's a lane that merges in. So if you're doing your job, you should be like, if you're going straight, you got to stay in the right lane. If you're, if you want to get over left, you have ample time to get over left. And if someone's not letting you over, then that's a little bit on them, but I don't know. Safety
All right.
first.
So in Pennsylvania,
yeah,
I think I've even seen the signs where they say fill up both lanes, and then they're encouraging people then to zipper in. But the right lane is always like 17 miles long, and you have those people buzzing by on the left.
Yeah.
And it just makes the left lane get longer, or the
so
right lane longer and longer.
That's a great point too. If everyone just followed the rules, which I know is not easy, that you wouldn't have that bottleneck effect because traffic would keep flowing. It's when cars try to cut over and then they make everyone stop, and that stops traffic a whole mile back because their time, once again, is more important than everyone else's behind them. So if you just follow, and I'm not saying you have to drive, if it's 65, you got to drive 65. No, you drive, you have the 5 mile limit, the buffer zone. But again, if it's like when you're leaving a crowded parking lot too, it's like one person goes, then this person goes, one, then
common
courtesy. And again, I think that is the big thing that's lacking. So sometimes you just want to slap people, but other times you just got to complain about it on a podcast. So, or say things under your breath or whatever it might be. So
this one I know hurts you deep. So I'll make
it. I think it's just when traveling, everyone wants to get to their destination. Like no one loves to be on the plane, but like, what's the rush too? Like of getting off, like, especially if you have to get to the baggage area, it's like, you're going to have to wait anyway. I don't know.
All right. So when people are coming on the plane,
yeah,
are you making eye contact with people? Are you like pretending like they don't exist?
I'll give you one quick story of a middle seat So my buddy and I are traveling. I don't know where we're coming from or going. I think we were actually traveling from New Orleans to Cincinnati of all places, but we had a connecting flight. But him and I are sitting on one row, and I have the aisle seat. He has the window seat, and there's an open middle seat. So we came up with this thing where we would like pretend we're talking to each other and lean over the middle seat when it was like a like a heavier person or like someone that was like not ideal to sit with. And then if there was like a really, like good looking girl that was coming on the plane, be like, oh, stretch out. Oh,
Look
there's plenty of room here.
It's the best seat on the plane.
So yeah, that's just a little funny story there. But so what's your thoughts real quick on all that? What should people do?
I like to put the earphones on and pretend like the world doesn't exist, so people will leave me alone. So whoever sits next to me, I just freaking ignore them. I'm like the biggest jerk when it comes to flying.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I actually think that's kind of nice etiquette, because most of the time people don't want to talk. If people want to talk, I don't mind talking for a little bit, especially if it's like a little small talk or whatever, and then you go on your way and put your headphones on. It's like those people that are being like overbearing and like tapping you, and like it's like, okay, that's enough. I don't have time for this. All right, now we're gonna get a little weird. I saw this.
I thought the last one was weird.
Oh, that was a little weird. This one's even weirder. We're escalating in weirdness. Okay. So I saw this on social media, and I never really thought about this, but the further Pooh led him into the forest, the more concerned Piglet became that Pooh wasn't wearing any pants. So, do you think, now I know this was a different era when this was created, but isn't it a little weird that Winnie the Pooh doesn't wear any pants?
I think that's kind of strange.
And like Winnie, I've heard the voice. It's a weird male voice. I guess Winnie could be a male's name or a female's name, but Winnie the Pooh. I mean, Debbie, do you think we'd be talking about Winnie the Pooh on this podcast?
It's a sports show, of course.
But Winnie the Pooh, I mean, I guess genderless. I don't know, but not wearing pants.
Well, I guess A&W has a bear as their mascot, and from the 50s till right now, it had no pants as well. But they finally outfitted it with a pair of jeans at this point, because people were a little upset that the bear had no pants.
Okay,
so it's a thing.
Okay, all right, and that's where that weirdness will end. We'll move on to this. This one really isn't weird. It's just kind of cool. So look at these still shots of Tiger Woods driving the ball. So first of all, 2007 to 2017. So I just caught this from Golf Digest. So who knows what it even looks like, even more so now, 6 years later. But this is Dubai, which is in the Arab Emirates, I believe, United Arab Emirates. This city was once literally just a golf course, nothing else, desert surrounding it. Have you seen some of the buildings, like the I think it's called like the Burj Khalifa and stuff? It's the biggest building in the world. But look at just in 10 years that growth and what that city might even be in 10 years.
I can't get over his swing. His swing used to be so open, and now it's so tight.
I wasn't sure if you were going to look at the golf swing or the building. So, yeah, but most golfers would probably look at the golf swing and be like, man, that's a different swing. I'm like, damn, that's a lot of buildings. So that's just my thoughts on that. Okay. And then I thought this one was a good one to end with today. And this is kind of like a fun, positive one, but this is just my thoughts on this. And I can't take credit for this, but it made me think. It said, at some point in your childhood, you and your friends went outside to play together for the last time and no one knew it. That's a thinker right there. Because think of how many people out there, we've all been kids, obviously, or, you think about your kids now. It's like they go outside to play, and they're out with their friends, and, some kids are into skateboarding, baseball, basketball, football, whatever it might be. But they go out and play, and then, they do that for so many years and do whatever. And like at one point, that will be the last time they get together and do that. It's just kind of cool, but sad thought at the same time. So
for 10 years, we had a wiffle ball field in our backyard.
Yeah.
And all of the kids from all over Girard came to play there. And so it was like a whole generation of kids that do it. And I can't remember the last game we played. And I don't even know if I won that game either. I want to think that I won.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't think it's so much of you don't remember the last time. It's like you just remember all the good times and the fun you had. But I thought that would be a good message to end with. Just always keep playing. Always, have fun with whatever you're doing, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, your job, your family, your friends, whatever it might be. So, and we're ending on a positive note here.
Do you have a favorite quote from The Sandlot?
Oh man, You're Killing Me, Smalls has got to be the go-to, but there's so many good ones.
The Bambino,
the great Bambino, or Baby Ruth. Who's that? Who is she? And then what? And they call him out. Such a great movie. Such a great movie. So for Joe, I'm Justin. Appreciate you guys watching. Again, make sure to follow us on social media at the 330 or at 330 Sports Show and at Youngstown Studio on all of our social media pages. Appreciate you guys. Everyone have a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content, and we would appreciate you sharing the videos and the word about us.